They say love doesn't always knock loud. Sometimes it just slips in and stays. I'm Alex LeMan. These stories, they're about that kind of love. Tender, tangled, a little messy, but always real. So settle in and let your heart listen. Love Was the Price. Chapter 1. The Stranger with the Blue Car. Miss Carter, open the door, or we change the lock. The marshal's voice bounced against the cracked brick walls of East Yamacross Street, but Jasmine Carter ignored him and leaned farther over the shaky second-floor railing. The afternoon heat pressed against her skin like a velvet glove turned inside out. Down on the curb, a blue Mercedes SL, polished so bright it mirrored the live oak branches, slid between faded yellow lines and settled in front of the building. Its engine purred, confident, almost teasing. Jasmine's breath hitched. Same car, same driver, Lionel Chase, who had bought her a mango martini 3 nights ago at the Velvet Lounge and called her queen before midnight. She tucked a loose braid behind one gold hoop, pinched her cheeks for color, and whispered to herself, "Don't let the sweat ruin the glow now." Below, Lionel stepped out, dark-skinned and sharp as a midnight hymn, charcoal suit stitched like it knew secrets. He adjusted his cufflinks, glanced at the eviction van, then up at her. Their eyes locked through August haze. He smiled. A slow tide, creeping over warm sand. The marshal pounded on the apartment door again. "Last warning, ma'am." The doorknob rattled. Inside, paint peeled in strips. Jasmine's last pair of designer heels lay beside half-packed trash bags. She turned from the chaos, shoved her phone into her purse and hurried down the rickety stairs. Cicadas sang overhead, thick and restless. Jasmine's sandals slapped concrete in a staccato beat. She forced a laugh as Lionel opened the passenger door. "Perfect timing," she said, sliding onto butter-soft leather. "I was just stepping out." He cocked an eyebrow. "Didn't realize I was rescuing a damsel in distress." "Who said I needed rescuing?" She angled her chin, letting sunlight catch her caramel cheekbones. The Mercedes accelerated, leaving dust swirling like ghosts around the marshal's boots. Inside, cool air smelled of eucalyptus and faint cigar smoke. Jasmine exhaled slowly, heartbeat syncing with the bass line of an old Anthony Hamilton track drifting from the speakers. Lionel glanced over. "You looked worried back there." "Just noise." She shrugged. "Landlord drama. You live alone." "For now," she answered, drawing patterns on the window fog with her fingertip. "But I prefer the idea of penthouses overlooking water." He laughed, deep and rich. "Savannah River's a start." The car turned onto River Street, cobblestones gleaming after a brief morning drizzle. Steamboat whistles floated across brown water, and tourists clutched pralines while photographing iron balconies draped in ivy. Yet the city's postcard charm felt distant. Jasmine saw only reflections of herself in shop windows, mirrors reminding her she was one step from losing everything or one whisper from gaining the universe. Lionel pulled into the circular drive of Hotel Magnolia, its marble entrance glistening under ceiling fans. A porter rushed over. Jasmine's pulse quickened at the sight of chandeliers sparkling beyond glass doors. She had strolled this lobby before, but never as a guest. They settled into a corner booth inside the jasmine-scented bar. The room glowed gold. Brass wall sconces flickered like attentive fireflies. Lionel ordered 2 espresso martinis without asking her preference, confidence that bordered on prophecy. She watched the bartender shake, pour, garnish, each motion a promise. "So," Lionel said, leaning in, voice velvet, "tell me what you want, Jasmine." She sipped. The froth left a kiss on her lip. I want mornings that taste like honey and nights that smell like sea salt. I want to stop worrying which bill is due. Mostly, I want to feel seen. Lionel traced the rim of his glass. I deal in real estate, high value, under the radar, deals that turn shacks into skylines. I could show you what it feels like to be seen. Her heart fluttered, a trapped wren inside a magnolia bloom. Yet a faint echo of her sister Maya's caution rose. Be careful, the devil drives German. Jasmine tucked it away, letting desire drown it. Lionel checked his Rolex, then slid a black card across the table. Go upstairs, suite 1402. Order anything, room service, dresses from the boutique, a view of the river. Put it on me. I have a quick meeting, 30 minutes. She pressed the card between trembling fingers. You trust me already? You strike me as a woman who knows value, he replied, eyes steady. Besides, trust is currency too. He stood, brushed invisible dust from his sleeve, and disappeared toward the elevator. Jasmine exhaled, pulse racing. Around her, laughter mingled with ice clinks and distant piano chords. She felt suspended between two worlds, the collapsing apartment where a marshal drilled holes through cheap wood, and the suite above where luxury floated behind sealed doors. She found a mirror near the bar entrance and faced it. The woman staring back had sweat-kissed skin, but her eyes glowed with midnight ambition. She whispered to her reflection, "Queen, don't blink." Then she headed for the elevator, every step echoing like a drumbeat announcing war and coronation at once. Chapter 2. Of Sisters and Warnings. Maya Carter was rinsing collard greens in a steel sink when the front door rattled, letting in thick night air scented with gardenia and bus exhaust. Jasmine slipped inside, clutching a shopping bag from the hotel boutique, cheeks flushed as if she had been kissed by secrets. The apartment smelled of ivory soap, simmering ham hocks, and children's crayons. Ceiling paint flaked like tired snow, but a gospel station on the radio kept the room warm with trembling organ chords. Maya glanced over her shoulder, water dripping from her wrists. You missed dinner again. I wasn't hungry, Jasmine said, dropping the bag on the sofa where Maya's 6-year-old Eli had left a Lego spaceship mid-battle. She nudged the blocks aside with the toe of her stiletto. The heel snapped. A small omen, quick and cruel. She winced, but hid it. Maya turned off the faucet. You been with that man from the lounge? Yes, and his name is Lionel. Jasmine unwrapped a silk scarf, let it ripple between her fingers like captured moonlight. He got me this, said the color brings out my eyes. Maya's gaze hardened. Gifts come with strings, sometimes chains, Jasmine scoffed. Why drag me down just because you settled for struggle? I want more. Maya wiped her hands, voice low. More can be less when it costs your soul. The living room light flickered. Outside, thunder rolled over Savannah's river marshes, slow and bass-heavy, like drums in a far-off revival. Eli peeked from the hallway wearing superhero pajamas. Auntie Jazz, you back? Jasmine forced a smile. Hey, champ. She tossed him a chocolate bar from her purse. He squealed, vanished. Maya folded her arms. You know rent's due Friday. Jasmine's confidence shifted. I'll handle it. How? Your bank app in overdraft since Easter. Jasmine looked away, remembering Suite 1402. The way Lionel's card slid through the reader without hesitation. The balcony view where barges crawled along the river like iron leviathans. She tasted the espresso martini again, sweet, deceptive. A knock interrupted them. Old Mrs. Dupree from downstairs shuffled in, eyes cloudy but sharp with second sight. She pressed a prayer cloth into Maya's palm. Felt a heaviness in the hallway, she murmured, then fixed her gaze on Jasmine. Baby, glitter ain't glory. Watch them crossroads at midnight. Jasmine shivered, the sweat dampened her spine. Maya thanked the woman, closed the door. Crossroads, she repeated softly. That's what this is. Lightning flashed, illuminating peeling wallpaper patterned with angels whose wings had faded to gray. Jasmine hugged herself. Why can't you just be happy for me? Because I've watched girls chase bright things and come home burned. Maya's voice shook. Mama did it. Remember how we slept in shelters when her boyfriend vanished with rent? The memory, like a rusty nail, pierced Jasmine's heartbeat. Still, pride bristled. I'm smarter than Mama. Smart ain't wise. Maya stepped closer, eyes glistening. Wise is knowing when diamonds are really glass, and when a blue car is just a hearse in disguise. Rain began, a hard tattoo on the tin roof. Jasmine moved to the window, watching streetlights smear in watery halos. A siren wailed distant, lonely. She imagined Lionel somewhere in that storm, a cigar glowing, calling her queen again. The thought warmed her, but Maya's words lingered like damp clothes. From the kitchen doorway, Eli whispered, "Why's the thunder angry?" Maya knelt, pulled him close. Thunder's just clouds talking, baby. Her eyes flicked to Jasmine. Sometimes it's warning somebody who ain't listening. Jasmine swallowed, ran the fingers over her scarf. The color really did make her eyes shine, or perhaps it was the tears she refused to shed. She pictured herself beside Maya at dawn, braiding hair, clipping coupons, clocking in at the nursing home. The vision choked her. She wanted velvet benches and rooftop pools, not cheap fluorescent lights and aching feet. Maya carried Eli to bed, humming a hymn. Jasmine sat alone, room lit only by lightning pops. She opened her phone. One new message from Lionel. Suite 1402, tomorrow, noon. Bring your prettiest smile. Her pulse quickened. Outside, the rain eased, leaving streets slick like fresh ink. A neighbor's radio drifted up through floorboards, blues guitar bending sorrow into sweetness. Jasmine typed, "Can't wait," and pressed send. In the hallway, Mrs. Dupree's door creaked. Wind hissed through cracked plaster like a secret too tired to stay hidden. Jasmine rose, straightened, slipped the silk scarf around her neck. She whispered to the dark apartment, "I choose more." Thunder answered, softer now, as if the sky exhaled, bracing for the noise yet to come. Chapter 3. A Table for Two. Jasmine stepped from the brass-clad elevator into the 12th floor corridor, heels whispering across carpet patterned with magnolias and hidden stars. The door to Suite 1402 stood ajar, a ribbon of lamplight slicing the hallway gloom. Inside, Lionel poured amber liquid into 2 crystal tumblers, as if the hour itself bowed to his rhythm. "Right on time, Queen," he said without turning. The city lights behind him smeared the windows with gold and indigo. Thunderclouds still prowled the horizon, but here the air felt scented with promise. She draped her raincoat on a velvet chair. "Couldn't keep me away." Her voice trembled, half thrill, half fear. The silk scarf Maya had mocked floated around her collarbone like friendly smoke. Lionel handed her a glass. Their fingers brushed. A spark darted up her arm. "To what comes next," he said. She tasted oak, honey, maybe danger. He watched her drink, eyes dark as wet soil. A discreet knock. Room service attendants wheeled in silver cloches, a low vase of white camellias, a single brass candle holder. Lionel tipped them with silent bills, then guided Jasmine onto the balcony while staff arranged the table. Savannah spread below, roofs glistening from rain, the river a black ribbon catching fragments of neon. A riverboat's calliope hummed faintly, mingling with cicadas revived by damp heat. Jasmine leaned against the rail. The wrought iron felt cool, steady, unlike her pulse. "You believe in signs?" Lionel asked, resting his elbows beside hers. "Depends on the sign." He pointed to a church steeple rising beyond warehouses. Lightning flickered behind it, outlining the cross. "Storm tonight, sunrise tomorrow. Balance." His tone softened. "Balance is precious." She studied him, broad shoulders carrying ease, but his jaw tightened whenever thunder rolled. "What's unbalanced in your world?" she asked. "Business pulls," he said, gaze dropping to street lamps. "Family tugs. Sometimes you need a new center." He faced her fully. "Maybe that's you." Her breath caught. Maya's warning fluttered like a moth inside her chest. She smothered it with a smile. "I can anchor a man if he lets me." He brushed raindrops from her sleeve, gentle as confession. "Come eat." Inside, the candle threw soft halos across linen. Under each cloche waited rosemary-seared salmon, truffle grits, and collard greens gleaming with smoked turkey. Low-country comfort elevated to royalty. Lionel filled their glasses with chilled rosé. Mid-bite, his phone vibrated. He glanced at the screen. Tension flashed, then vanished. He muted the call, but Jasmine caught a name. Brother Emmanuel. She swallowed hard. "Work?" "Old friend," he murmured. "Tonight belongs to you." Yet shadows lingered in the lines around his mouth. She shifted, reaching for lightness. "Tell me a childhood story. I want to know what shaped that suit." He chuckled, leaned back. "Grew up on Bay Street projects. Mama cleaned hotels. Taught me every dollar had a duty. I swore we'd rise." He tapped his watch. "Now I buy the buildings they once scrubbed." Triumph glimmered, but behind it she sensed a bruise that had never faded. She touched his hand. "Your mama must be proud." "She would be if heaven takes calls." His fingers curled around hers, firm, seeking solace. Jasmine's throat tightened. Grief made even kings small. A sudden gust rattled the window. The candle bent, its flame stretching like a warning finger before settling. Lionel stood, paced to the minibar, poured bourbon, downed it neat. Upon turning, his smile returned, yet his eyes stayed elsewhere. "Let's talk about you," he said. "What dream keeps you awake?" She pictured Maya's cramped kitchen, Eli's innocent grin, the marshal's hard boots. Then she saw herself gliding through marble lobbies, satin skirts brushing power. "I want a life that doesn't apologize," she whispered. "I want mornings without fear." Lionel approached, cupped her cheek. "Then fear ends tonight." He reached into his jacket, produced a slim envelope. Inside lay a black key card embossed with the Magnolia Hotel crest, her name engraved beneath. "Suite 1501. Your own space, no questions at the desk, stay as long as you like." Tears pricked her vision. Generosity felt like sunlight after drought, but a chill tracked along her spine. Why such lavish trust? She managed, "Why me?" He traced the scarf's edge. "Because you see me, not just my shine. And I see you, Jasmine Carter. Potential should never sleep on linoleum floors." Her phone vibrated. "Maya. Rent still due Friday. You okay?" Jasmine flipped it face down. The candle's reflection trembled in Lionel's watch crystal, wobbling like a future neither could steady. He raised his glass. "To storms passing." She touched hers to his. Crystal chimed, delicate yet fateful, like bells at a wedding or at a funeral. Outside, thunder answered, distant but marching closer. Inside, two souls toasted, unaware which ceremony waited first. Chapter 4. Golden Cages. Summer crept into Savannah like thick syrup, filling every alley with heat so dense it muted car horns and cicada cries alike. Jasmine awoke in Suite 1501, sheets cool against her skin, air conditioning humming a lullaby of privilege. Morning light spilled across marble floors and painted her borrowed life in gold. She padded to the balcony, pressed her palms to the glass, and stared down at River Street where tourists fanned themselves with souvenir maps. She should have felt triumphant. Instead, an unnamed pressure sat on her chest, as if the city expected payment for every sunrise she watched from this height. The doorbell chimed. She wrapped a silk robe around her shoulders and opened the door to a bellman balancing 4 garment bags and 2 shoeboxes. "Compliments of Mr. Chase, ma'am." His grin carried practiced discretion. She thanked him, tipped more than she possessed in her checking account, and shut the door. Inside, she unzipped the bags one by one. Emerald jumpsuit, pearl white blazer, sapphire evening gown. Colors of royalty, currencies of attention. Yet each hanger felt heavier than the last, as though stitched with invisible iron. Jasmine pictured Maya lugging piles of scrubs to the laundromat, sweat staining her collar, and guilt flickered like a dying bulb. She tried to call her sister, but the signal inside the suite faltered to a single bar. When voicemail clicked on, Jasmine whispered, "I'm okay, promise." The lie tasted metallic. That afternoon, Lionel fetched her in the blue Mercedes. The streets shimmered, asphalt breathing steam, magnolia petals drooping like exhausted dancers. He drove past verdant squares and chipped fountains until skyscrapers surrendered to oak-lined residential lanes. They stopped before a modern condo tower whose glass facade mirrored marshlands in the distance. Jasmine blinked at the valet stand, heart drumming. Lionel handed her a silver key fob. "Penthouse D is yours now. No lease, no mortgage. Call it a long-term loan until you decide where forever should be." Her mouth formed questions, but his kiss silenced them. Upstairs, the penthouse opened in a sweep of white walls, floor-to-ceiling windows, and silent smart shades waiting for a command. A grand piano occupied the corner like a patient preacher. On the kitchen island lay a checkbook embossed with her name and a debit card linked to an account she didn't remember opening. While Lionel toured her through closets larger than Maya's living room, Jasmine noticed odd details. Protective plastic still on some appliances, faint scuff marks near a hidden stairwell, the smell of fresh paint beneath citrus air freshener. She asked how long the place had been vacant. He hesitated, then said, "A while. Company property, you'll make it feel lived in." Twilight draped the marsh. Lionel lit vanilla candles, cooked shrimp and grits with surprising skill, and played Coltrane on the speakers. During dinner, his phone buzzed twice, both times Brother Emmanuel. He ignored it, eyes fixed on Jasmine as though she were an answer to an old riddle. She laughed, feigning ease, yet every ignored call felt like a pebble dropped in her stomach, measuring depth she could not see. Dessert was peach cobbler eaten straight from the skillet. Sugar clung to Jasmine's fingertips. Lionel wiped them with a cloth, lingered on each knuckle. He whispered that legacy required partnership, that she steadied his storm. Heat rose in her cheeks, but the compliment arrived freighted with ownership. She kissed him anyway, needing proof that tenderness still existed beneath transaction. Later, after he left for a late negotiation, Jasmine wandered the silent condo. Moonlight silvered the furniture, transforming the piano into a sleek animal crouched in wait. She sat at its bench and pressed a single key. The note echoed through open rooms, lonely yet full. She lifted the lid on the music stand and found a sealed envelope addressed to L. Chase. Curiosity sparked. She slid a fingernail beneath the flap, hesitated, then withdrew. Instead, she explored the hidden stairwell. It led to a locked door. Her fob did not work. Behind the door she heard nothing, but the air felt colder, as if secrets had their own climate. Unable to sleep, she stepped onto the balcony. The marsh grass glowed under moonshine, stretching like a dark quilt toward the Atlantic. In the distance, factory chimneys pulsed red lights, warning planes and perhaps sinners. Jasmine hugged herself. From this height the city looked delicate, breakable. She realized the condo had no curtains. Anyone with a telescope and intent could watch her pacing, doubting, dreaming. Her phone finally found signal. 2 new texts from Maya. Landlord threatened eviction again. Are you coming home? And later, at least text back alive. Jasmine typed, I'm alive, rent soon, love you. Before she hit send, she glanced at the debit card on the counter. Easy fix. Yet, Mrs. Dupree's gravel voice returned, glitter ain't glory, crossroads at midnight. Midnight arrived. Jasmine pressed send anyway. Wind lifted through live oaks, rustling Spanish moss like restless spirits. Inside, the candles she had forgotten to blow out had melted into twisted spires, their flames thin as needles. She watched them flicker, realizing a cage could be gilded, could hover above ground, could even smell like vanilla, but it remained a cage the moment the lock belonged to someone else. Chapter 5. The Diamond Contract. Dawn bled through marsh fog in streaks of coral, tinting the penthouse windows like stained glass. Jasmine woke on the velvet sofa to the hush of the river sliding beneath a low sky. Lionel's suit jacket lay draped across a chair, but he was nowhere in sight. For an instant she enjoyed the silence, then noticed a tiny velvet box on the piano lid, its hinge half open as though it had breathed during the night. She crossed the room barefoot, heartbeat cluttering the quiet. Inside the box glittered a pear-shaped diamond the size of a raindrop caught in headlights. Its facets tossed sunrise across the walls, dizzy bright. A handwritten note lay beneath. Meet me on the roof at 8. Bring your answer. L. Jasmine's throat tightened. She pictured Maya standing in their mother's kitchen, washing dishes with cracked hands, warning her that shortcuts often circled back with teeth. Yet the diamond beckoned like a new planet. She slipped it onto her finger. The stone felt colder than metal, as if it guarded secrets too heavy for gold. On the rooftop terrace, a breeze lifted the heat-heavy air and carried briny sweetness from the river. Lionel waited beneath a pergola draped in wisteria. He wore a linen suit the color of doves and held 2 mugs of chicory coffee. Beyond him, cranes dotted the skyline like iron hieroglyphs warning travelers to turn back. Morning, Queen, he said, voice low from little sleep. Does it fit? She raised her hand. The diamond flashed. Feels unreal. Reality is elastic, he replied, guiding her to a round table set with beignets dusted in sugar snow. Stretch it, and it holds new shapes. They shared coffee. Steam curled into humid air, vanishing faster than dreams. Lionel took her left hand, turning it palm up. That ring. Call it a promise, but not just of marriage. I need more than romance. I need a partner who trusts my path even when the map looks crooked. A gull shrieked overhead, slicing the moment. Jasmine swallowed. What path? He retrieved a glossy folder from beneath the table, slid it across. Inside lay contracts, wire instructions, a Cayman Bank routing sheet. At the top, embossed in silver, read Chase Legacy Holdings, Phase 3. Her name appeared in bold as co-director. You sign, Lionel whispered, eyes shining like wet coal, and every zero in that account is ours. You'll never fear a bill again. The coffee turned bitter on her tongue. Why me? She asked, echoing the question from their first dinner. Because you carry fire without burning your own hands, he said. And because Brother Emmanuel insists feminine grace closes deals men alone can't touch. The name chilled her skin. Who is Brother Emmanuel? A mentor of sorts. Lionel's gaze drifted to distant barges. He speaks in parables about wealth and sacrifice. Help me finish this expansion and the city will carve our initials on its bones. Jasmine flipped pages. Clauses spiraled in legal thickets. Penalties gleamed like hidden fangs. An uneasy wind tugged her robe, and she remembered the locked door below the penthouse. Air colder, secrets breathing. She heard Mrs. Dupree's warning, glitter ain't glory. Lionel rose, walked to the terrace edge. I've seen poverty drag people into graves before their time. I refuse that destiny. Stand beside me and we rewrite our bloodlines. He extended a gold fountain pen, the nib glinting. Thunder mumbled far off, though the sky stayed clear. Jasmine's pulse drummed in her ears. The diamond burned colder, as if sensing crossroads. She imagined Maya opening an eviction notice while Eli tried to fold it into a paper plane. Imagine handing them rent money in crisp hundreds, no questions. Imagine the marshal's boots retreating. She stepped forward, pen hovering over the signature line. The wind stilled, waiting. In the river below, a container ship's horn boomed, a solemn cathedral bell. She began to sign, then paused when she noticed a faint watermark beneath the paper, a single eye inside a triangle, pupils swirling like smoke. What symbol is that? She asked. Lionel's voice softened to gravel. A seal of assurance means doors open and stay open. Or never close, she whispered, gooseflesh rising. He moved behind her, hands resting on her shoulders, warm, possessive. Fear is a ghost from rooms we've already left. She inhaled marsh air salted with lilies and diesel, tasting both promise and corrosion. Memories flickered, Mother humming hymns, Maya warning of devils in navy, Lionel's jaw tightening when thunder rolled. She set the pen down. I need time, she said, expecting anger. Instead, he kissed the crown of her head. Sunset, he murmured. That's all I can give. She slipped the ring off, placed it atop the folder. Diamonds can wait until I read the fine print. His smile twitched, half admiration, half alarm. Read carefully, then. Some lines rewrite themselves after dark. She turned away, robe billowing like retreating smoke, and descended the stairwell. Behind her, the river kept sliding, patient and unstoppable, as if it knew every contract sank eventually, and only truth could float. Chapter 6. The guest who never leaves Jasmine retreated to the penthouse stairwell, pulse hammering in her temples. Each step echoed like a judge's gavel, pronouncing doubts she refused to name. By the time she reached the foyer, her knees trembled, yet the condo sat serene. Candles trimmed, piano lid closed, shades half drawn against noon glare. She inhaled lavender from the diffuser and almost convinced herself nothing had changed. The elevator chimed. She froze. Doors slid open to reveal a man in an ivory dashiki and polished loafers, gray beard braided with copper beads. His eyes were ebony mirrors, reflecting everything, revealing nothing. He carried no briefcase, only a weathered Bible whose edges had frayed into feathers. Miss Carter. His voice floated, gentle as cotton yet heavy as tombstone. I am Brother Emmanuel. Her mouth went dry. The name she had heard only on Lionel's silenced phone now stood on her silk rug. She stared at the elevator, expecting Lionel, security, anyone, but the doors closed behind the visitor and locked. How did you reach this floor? She asked, masking fear with velvet. High places welcome me, he answered, placing the Bible on the console table. I come where contracts are forged in breath, not ink. She remembered the watermark I on Lionel's papers. If you're here to collect a signature, I haven't given mine. He smiled, revealing teeth too bright for the dim room. Choice is a hymn sung once, then forever. He drifted toward the balcony, fingers brushing the piano keys in a silent chord. This instrument knows. One key chimed, though he never pressed. Jasmine's skin prickled. Lionel isn't home. Lionel is never truly home, Emmanuel murmured. He opened the balcony door. Marsh heat poured in, along with the distant cries of gulls. Walk with me. She followed, magnetized by dread. Outside, clouds bruised the horizon, casting an ombre of violet over the river. Emmanuel pointed toward the shipping lanes where rusty freighters crawled. See those ships? They enter Savannah full and depart empty. The river keeps a toll. What does that have to do with me? You ride a vessel built from another man's hunger. His gaze pierced her diamond bare finger. Hunger must pay. Lightning flickered, though thunder remained silent. Jasmine gripped the railing. I haven't agreed to anything. But you accepted the key, the gowns, the view. Acceptance and agreement are twins, born seconds apart. He lifted his palm as if weighing invisible coins. Still, mercy weighs more. She thought of Maya, eviction looming, Eli folding letters into planes. Her choices curled back like smoke toward their windows. What do you want? A candle, he said simply. One you light tonight at 9. Place it in the locked room downstairs. Let it burn. Let its flame judge truth from glitter. The locked room. She pictured the stairwell's chill. And if I refuse? Every flame finds oxygen, even in darkness. He stepped inside, retrieved his Bible. Refusal writes its own verse. He pressed the worn book into her hands. Its pages smelled of cedar and storms. The elevator reopened without a key code. Emmanuel entered, turned once. Remember, daughter of crossroads, contracts favor the first to kneel. Doors closed. Silence throbbed. Jasmine clutched the Bible, pulse racing. She flipped pages, margins brimmed with handwritten notes, dates, river depths, cryptic diagrams of eyes within triangles. On the last page a verse was circled. For what shall it profit a man if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul? Her phone rang. Lionel. She let it buzz to voicemail, then replayed his message. Sunset's ticking, Jazz. Don't make me choose for both of us. The line cut on a muffled shout. Voices she couldn't place, then static. Rain hammered the balcony glass. She hurried to the stairwell, descended to the locked door. The air again shifted cold, as though the building's veins ran with winter beneath summer skin. She pressed the fob, still red. She laid the Bible against the seam. The door clicked, eased open by inches. Inside, a narrow room housed a single pedestal draped in black cloth. Overhead, an industrial vent blew frigid air that carried faint incense. On the pedestal waited a brass bowl half filled with salt and a white candle unused. No matches. Jasmine's breath fogged. She backed away, heart sprinting. As she closed the door, it latched of its own accord. She turned to find Lionel standing at the stairwell landing, suit damp from rain, tie loose, eyes frantic. "Why are you down here?" he demanded. Her voice shook. Brother Emmanuel came. Lionel's face drained. He reached for her wrist, grip iron. He doesn't step into light unless timelines slip. He glanced at the locked door, then at her empty ring finger. Tell me exactly what he said. Jasmine pulled free. He asked for a candle and warned me that hunger must pay. Thunder exploded, rattling metal ducts. Lionel exhaled through clenched teeth. He gave you a test. Fail it, and the river claims what I built. You mean we built, she corrected, though her own foundations felt like sand. Then light the candle, he urged. Prove you're with me. Marry the moment before night devours it. Upstairs, the condo lights flickered. Below, river horns wept like mourning mothers. Jasmine stared at Lionel, seeing fear fossilize where ambition once blazed. She imagined striking a match, feeding a ritual she didn't understand. She also imagined Maya's steady hands braiding Eli's hair at dawn. House quiet because rent was paid honestly. I'll choose, she whispered, voice steadier than her pulse. But the choosing will be mine. She climbed the stairs past him, each step a drumbeat toward 9 o'clock, toward a flame that might free or bind her, toward a guest who had promised never to leave until a soul decided which room to inhabit, light or dark. Chapter 7. Blood on the Ledger. Rain lulled for a breath, leaving the penthouse wrapped in muffled twilight. Jasmine stood alone in the kitchen, the candle Brother Emmanuel had demanded resting beside a box of wooden matches. The digital clock above the stove glowed 8:37. Each minute pulsed like a heartbeat she could not calm. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, lightning braided the sky, illuminating marsh grass bowing beneath the wind. Across the room, Lionel paced, phone pressed to his ear, speaking in clipped whispers she could not decipher. When he noticed her watching, he ended the call mid-sentence and offered a tight smile that never reached his eyes. "Still time, Jazz," he murmured. "We can finish this together." She cradled the candle, its wax cool and scentless. Memories tumbled. Mama's sermons about narrow gates, Maya's tired laughter when rent money finally stretched, Eli's innocent question about Thunder's anger. Jasmine swallowed. "Tell me what waits behind that door." Lionel's jaw flexed. "Insurance," he said. "Proof the universe owes us." "Insurance shouldn't smell like cold metal," she replied. He reached for her wrist. "Whatever Emmanuel spun, it's half-truth. Light the candle and we buy silence. No one gets hurt." She slipped from his grasp. "No one except whoever already paid to build your throne." Thunder cracked. The chandelier trembled. 8:46. Jasmine moved to the stairwell, candle in hand. Lionel followed, footsteps echoing like distant drums. At the locked door she paused. The air seeped icy through the jamb. Her fingers shook as she slid the fob. This time the light flashed green. The room beyond was small, concrete, colder than Savannah in January. A single bulb buzzed overhead. On the pedestal, the brass bowl brimmed with coarse salt, but something new lay atop it. A thick leather ledger bound with red cord. The pages gaped as if breathing. Lionel lingered in the doorway, unwilling to cross the threshold. "Those aren't our sins," he said hurriedly. "They're markers, promises from men who wanted quick gold. I only collect." Jasmine opened the ledger. Columns of names crowded the parchment. Some she recognized from society pages, others scribbled only with initials. Beside each name, a crimson fingerprint marked the debt's completion. Near the bottom, a space waited, blank, but for a faint penciled J. Carter. Pain lanced her chest. "You plan to trade me," she whispered. "I plan to reward you," Lionel insisted, voice cracking under the hum of the bulb. "Your signature finishes Phase 3, doubles every portfolio. After that, we disappear, live clean." She struck a match. Flame flared, sulfur curling into the cold. Lionel's shoulders dropped in relief. "There, good, place it, walk away." But Jasmine stared at the ledger, at the salt meant to purify what paper had condemned. The match burned toward her fingertips, heat demanding decision. She remembered Brother Emmanuel's phrase, "Contracts favor the first to kneel." Kneel to whom? Instead of setting the candle upright, she touched the match to the ledger's edge. Dry pages hissed, swallowed flame, greedily racing through columns of ink and blood. Lionel shouted, lunged, but salt spilled, slicking the concrete. He slipped, hit the wall. Fire climbed faster, hungry for history. Sprinklers clicked on, spraying icy needles. Smoke spiraled, steam rose. Jasmine backed out, dragging Lionel by his soaked lapel into the hall. Alarm sirens screamed through every vent. Red strobes painted the stairwell like a fever dream. He coughed, eyes wild. "Do you realize what you've cost us?" "Count it as tithe," she said, voice steady though her lungs burned. Upstairs, the condo lights strobed, then died. Elevators locked. Jasmine hauled Lionel toward the emergency stairs. Each floor they passed smelled of damp carpet and startled wealth waking to judgment. On the lobby level, firefighters surged past, axes ready. Security surrounded Lionel, questions firing, but Jasmine walked straight through the revolving doors into rain that tasted of river silt and first chances. Sirens wailed behind her. She did not look back. Street lamps shimmered on puddles, turning asphalt into mirrors. There, among the reflections, Jasmine saw herself barefoot, hair plastered, candle still clutched unlit. She whispered a prayer Mama used to hum, short, no flourishes, then dropped the candle into a gutter rushing brown with storm water. Wax bobbed, spun, vanished. A text buzzed from Maya, still awake. "Where you at?" Jasmine typed with trembling thumbs. "Walking home. Bring the kids donuts in the morning." She hit send, turned east, and let the river wind guide her through the sleeping city, trusting dawn to find her where contracts could no longer reach. Chapter 8. The Fire in the Trees. First light smeared the savannah sky pink as bruised rose petals when Jasmine turned onto Yamacross Street. Rain-slick pavement mirrored boarded windows and stray Mardi Gras beads that a storm had flung from somebody's porch. Maya's apartment glowed with a single stove bulb, the kind that made everything look like gospel soup. Jasmine tapped gently. The door opened on creaking hinges and the smell of burnt coffee. Maya stood barefoot in a t-shirt, eyes wide with sleepless questions. Jasmine's silk dress clung to her like wilted jasmine vines. Her mascara had run into tributaries of ash. She tried to smile, then crumpled into Maya's arms. No words, just the shaking that comes after you outrun a nightmare you helped design. They sat at the wobbly kitchen table, while Eli and baby Naya still dreamed behind a cracked bedroom door. Ceiling fans clicked slow, stirring humid air that smelled of citrus cleanser and worry. Jasmine poured the coffee, hands trembling so hard that dark liquid sloshed onto a stack of eviction notices. Maya wiped the spill, then waited. Jasmine spoke in pieces. Ledger, candle, Brother Emmanuel, the blaze that woke a tower of sleeping strangers. She ended with Lionel's face lit red by fire alarms, a man watching centuries of ambition melt in one sprinkler storm. When she finished, dawn had pushed gold through the blinds, striping the wall with tiger slats. Maya closed her eyes. "You walked from flames into family. That has to mean something." Jasmine traced a burn on her thumb where the match had licked her. In her pocket, the fob to Suite 1501 felt suddenly weightless, as though its magic had leaked out overnight. A siren wailed down MLK Boulevard. Through the window, they saw smoke rolling over the river, thick and dark, but not from the penthouse. Farther east, the horizon flashed orange. Live oaks that lined Riverside Park crackled, branches spitting sparks like angry spirits. News bulletins popped on Maya's phone. Industrial office fire jumps to tree line. Suspected electrical surge at Chase Legacy Holdings. Jasmine's breath snagged. That's Lionel's flagship, 6th floor records vault. She pictured rows of contracts, carbon copies of signatures sealed with salt, now curling into black memory. Maya gripped her hand. Maybe the river is clearing its debt. Just then, Mrs. Dupree shuffled upstairs, nightgown billowing like ghost cotton. She carried a wooden box etched with a single eye. "Child, wind carried this to my stoop." Inside lay the lost diamond ring, stone dulled by soot. A scrap of paper clung to the band, ash-kissed but legible. "You still owe sunrise. E." Jasmine's pulse drummed. She imagined Brother Emmanuel walking beneath those burning oak limbs, collecting promises that tried to escape as smoke. She wondered which sunrise he meant, past or future. Maya shut the box. "We choose what we owe," she said quietly, "not men in linen suits or prophets with silver eyes." Eli patted out, rubbing sleep from lids. "Mama, why the tree's on fire?" Maya pulled him close. "Sometimes old wood must burn so new seeds see daylight." Jasmine knelt, meeting Eli's gaze. "And sometimes aunties bring donuts like they promised." The boy grinned. Simple faith erased sleepless shadows. They gathered coins from a jar, enough for 3 apple fritters and a small chocolate milk. Outside, sirens faded. Engines groaned by the river. Smoke curled above rooftops, but jasmine vines on railings opened white against the gray, releasing fragrance as though nothing could choke beauty for long. As they walked, Jasmine slipped the ring into her purse beside the fob. Weight returned, but different. No longer a shackle, more a stone you carry until you find deep water. On Bay Street, bakery bells chimed. Sugar warmth rose like morning prayer. Jasmine watched Maya order, watched Eli press his face to the glass, watched a city pretend the night had never roared. In that fragile quiet, she felt the ground of ordinary life beneath borrowed heels and decided she would not give the ring back, nor sell it. She would melt it down one day, perhaps forge a small cross, maybe a door key to a house bought with clean earnings. Behind her the river kept sliding, carrying ash, carrying secrets, carrying whatever contracts burned before they could claim one more name. And somewhere beyond the fire line, Brother Emmanuel, guest of Crossroads, walked on toward the next ledger waiting for flame or mercy. Chapter 9. The Fall of Mr. Chase. Savannah's noon sun pressed heat waves over City Market, but inside Chatham County Courthouse the air felt refrigerated, like a morgue built for dreams. Marble floors gleamed with imported polish. Every footstep echoed like a gavel. Jasmine stood at the security checkpoint clutching a manila envelope that held the burned ledger fragments she had salvaged before sprinklers drowned the room. Her pulse rattled against her ribs, louder than the metal detector's beep. Detective Area Rivers greeted her with tired eyes and a voice roughened by too many late-night fires. "Grand jury wants clarity," she said, motioning Jasmine down a hallway that smelled of paper dust and fear. Chase Legacy Holdings fell faster than a wet roof. We found offshore wires, ritual paraphernalia, security footage of a man in a dashiki leaving 20 minutes before the blaze. Your name keeps floating to the surface. Help me net the rest." Jasmine's throat tightened at the mention of Brother Emmanuel. She followed Rivers into an interview room painted stale gray. Through the one-way glass she glimpsed Lionel handcuffed to a metal chair, suit soot-stained, eyes hollow, yet still hunting for angles. His lawyer whispered, but Lionel hardly blinked, as if the words could no longer bribe his heartbeat. "Take your time," Rivers said, sliding a recorder forward. Jasmine inhaled the scent of burnt paper lingering on her blouse. She described salt bowls, crimson fingerprints, and an invitation disguised as a ring. She confessed to lighting the ledger, in self-defense of souls, she said, and to fleeing a tower that no longer knew mercy. When she finished, sweat cooled on her skin despite the blasting AC. Rivers nodded, expression unreadable. "Ledger's ash, but motive breathes," she murmured. "You might walk free if a jury smells sincerity." A bailiff knocked. "Defendant, ready for arraignment." Rivers escorted Jasmine to the spectator bench. Courtroom lighting glittered off ceiling fans, casting spinning halos that made every head look sainted and suspicious at once. Lionel shuffled in. Shackles rang like broken piano notes. The crowd's murmur swelled. Investors, reporters, a few polished enemies baring teeth behind polite smiles. Jasmine felt his gaze spear through bodies until it pinned her. Regret, or accusation, darkened his pupils. She looked away, focusing on the judge's mahogany bench where carved scales sagged under invisible weight. Charges were read: fraud, conspiracy, endangerment, arson with intent to destroy evidence. Lionel's lawyer pled not guilty, voice crisp as new money. The prosecutor requested remand. The judge agreed, citing risk of metaphysical retaliation, words that drew gasps and a thin smile from a gray-bearded man in the back row. Jasmine recognized the copper beads woven into his beard. Emmanuel tipped an imaginary hat toward her, then vanished through side doors before she could decide whether to chase revelation or avoid it. Court recessed. Lionel was led past her. For a heartbeat, their shoulders aligned. He whispered, hoarse, "You set the match, Queen. Now own the fire." Tears burned behind Jasmine's eyes, but she remained silent. Ownership was exactly what she had chosen. Outside, oak branches dripped humidity and ash motes the wind still carried from yesterday's blaze. Protesters brandished signs, some damning greed, others swearing Lionel's innocence. A televangelist shouted about hellfire discount packages. Jasmine slipped through the chaos toward Wright Square, where Spanish moss shaded granite benches. Maya waited there with Eli, donuts in a grease-spotted bag. The boy waved, powdered sugar dusting his cheeks like early frost. Jasmine sank beside them. Church bells tolled 1 o'clock, each clang shaking loose pigeons that rose like gray prayers. "Is it finished?" Maya asked. "Courts say no," Jasmine answered, voice uneven. "But the ledger's gone. Without it, Emmanuel's contracts lost their blood anchor. Maybe that's enough." Eli offered her half a cruller. She bit into flaky sweetness and felt tears slip free. Salt mingling with sugar, grief mixing with grace. Across the square, a homeless saxophonist riffed Amazing Grace in minor key, stretching sorrow into something nearly holy. Maya squeezed Jasmine's hand. "You can't unburn pages, but you can choose what you write next." Jasmine nodded. She reached into her purse, retrieved the diamond ring, and set it on the bench between them. Sunlight refracted off shattered facets, spitting tiny rainbows onto Eli's sneakers. Then she pulled out the silver fob, pressed it into Maya's palm. "If detectives ask, tell them I gave back every key I never earned." Maya's eyes widened with understanding and worry. "Where will you go?" "Somewhere paper trails can't find me, not to hide, but to heal." She stood, kissed Eli's forehead, inhaled the scent of sugar and childhood. "I'll send real addresses, earned honest." As she walked toward River Street, cicadas screamed and barges moaned and gulls laughed overhead. All of Savannah's rough music escorting her to the water. At the bluff, she hurled the ring into the brown current. It flashed once, then sank. She watched ripples erase its brief rebellion. Behind her, distant sirens quieted, replaced by afternoon traffic and merchants selling pralines. Ahead, the river kept sliding east, toward salt marshes and clean horizon, carrying broken contracts and a woman who now bore two truths: Fire destroys, but it also purifies. And mercy, once lit, spreads faster than greed ever could. Chapter 10. The Woman with Two Names. Autumn settled over Atlanta with cinnamon gold sunlight and chilled breezes that rattled chain-link fences like tambourines. On the west side, a refurbished recreation center, once a warehouse for broken vending machines, now thrummed with after-school laughter. Jasmine Carter, who signed the visitor log as Jasmine Grace, leaned against a mural she had helped paint the month before. A black girl releasing paper boats into a turquoise sky. Acrylic still faintly perfumed the hallway, reminding her that new color could cling where soot once lived. Inside the multi-purpose room, teens circled folding tables, piecing together business ideas for youth market fair. Jasmine coached a shy sophomore on elevator pitches, while an old gospel track played from her phone's tiny speaker. At every measure she felt the name Grace settle better on her shoulders, lighter than Queen, freer than Debtor. Yet the echo of Carter remained, a whisper that kept her humble. During a break, she stepped into the courtyard. Sweet tea olives scented the crisp air. Red maple leaves skated along cracked concrete like fleeting confetti. Detective Area Rivers appeared by the gate, trench coat fluttering. "Thought you should know," she said, handing over a folded newspaper. The headline read, "Chase pleads, 10 years, no parole." Below, Lionel's mugshot looked less like a king dethroned than a pilgrim who had glimpsed his own abyss. Jasmine's stomach knotted, but relief followed like a gentler twin. Rivers added, "Court accepted your testimony as key, you're cleared." Her gaze softened. "You did more than burn evidence. You rescued futures." Jasmine thanked her. They talked of possible grant funding for the center. The conversation lingered an extra minute. Two hearts mapping unfamiliar ease. Before leaving, Rivers pressed a card into Jasmine's palm. "If paperwork ever claws back, call." The card smelled faintly of jasmine and smoke. That evening, Maya and the kids arrived on a megabus, clutching duffel bags and city dreams. They would stay with Jasmine until public housing paperwork cleared. Eli rushed into the rec center still wearing his Savannah Braves cap, eyes wide at the mural. "Auntie Grace, that boat looked like the one we folded from eviction letters," he said, not noticing the flicker of pain behind her smile. "Exactly like it," she replied, and lifted him so he could paint an extra star above the girl's head. After lights out, Jasmine sat on the rooftop garden, where volunteers grew collards in plastic tubs. A harvest moon glazed downtown towers, making glass appear molten. She pulled the silver fob from her pocket, the last relic of Suite 1501, and set it beside a small bronze brazier salvaged from a thrift shop. She struck a match. The flame danced blue, then steady gold. Birdsong night crickets hushed as if listening. She whispered, "For every door I forced open, may another open honestly." The fob melted slow, metal weeping into embers until only a dark droplet remained. Wind rose, carrying a scent of myrrh. Across the rooftop, Brother Emmanuel emerged between planters, copper beads glinting. He stayed at a polite distance. "Ledgers wiped clean," he said, voice softer than before. "You chose mercy over shine." "Mercy chose me first," she answered. He nodded once, palms pressed in benediction. "Remember, daughter of crossroads, gold that survives fire turns to light." Then he walked toward the stairwell but vanished where shadow met moonbeam, leaving only the rustle of collard leaves. Jasmine closed her eyes, drawing in night air tinged with charred alloy and sweet basil. Somewhere below, Maya laughed at a sitcom rerun. Rivers' business card waited on a dresser, and students drafted logos destined for craft fair tents. The world kept scribbling new lines. She pressed 2 fingers to her pulse, steady, reclaimed, and spoke both her names into the sky. The wind took them, wove them together, and carried them forward like twin sails eager for honest water.